From coast to coast, every culture, every angle. This is Arise America.
In more U.S. news, ESPN suspended the writer and commentator Bill Simmons for 3 weeks. Simmons made controversial statements criticizing NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell over the Ray Rice domestic violence case.
I just think not enough is being made out of the fact that they knew about the tape and they knew it was on it. Yeah. Goodell, if he didn't know what was on that tape, he's a liar. I'm just saying it. He is lying. I think that dude is lying. If you put him up on a lie detector test, that guy would fail. And for all these people to pretend they didn't know is such f***ing bullshit. It really is. It's such f***ing bullshit. And for him to go in that press conference and pretend otherwise, I was so insulted.
We have joining us now in our New York studios, George Martin. He's a former Giant, was a Giant for 14 years, former defensive lineman, I believe.
That's correct.
Retired back in 1988, has written a book. You're covering your title there.
My
just
apologies.
around the Don't ever cover the title of your book.
Lesson learned.
George Martin, nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming in. Let's start with some of the sound that we just heard. Bill Simmons, he got whacked on the back of the hand.
He did indeed.
For saying probably what a whole lot of people think. What do you think about ESPN's penalty to him?
Well, I think, first of all, I think it was appropriate because I think that the language that he used was a little bit over the top. I think we all feel as if, though, that Roger Goodell has been less than forthcoming with all of us, but for us to voice it in those kind of terms, I think was a little bit over the top, particularly for someone in the media. I think he could have done it in I think, more suitable terms.
Yeah, and the ESPN put out a statement, and they said that there are standards and practices that they hold all of their reporters to, including their analysts and commentators, and that he didn't adhere to those standards and practices. But it does sort of raise the question of how much the ESPN is in the pocket, if you will, of the NFL and the commissioner.
Well, let's face it, we've got to acknowledge that there's a symbiotic relationship between the two. After all, one scratches one back and the other reciprocates. So I don't think that that's unusual. We understand that there is a link there, but I think that they acted under the circumstances appropriately. But there is I think a segment of society that's raising the eyebrow and say, wait a minute, did you kind of overreact because you want to stay in good graces with the National Football League? I think that question has been raised now.
Indeed, it does. Now, I know you have a personal relationship, a close relationship with Roger Goodell.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, as a former executive director of the NFL Alumni Association and the president of the NFL Players Association, I've worked very hard over my 14-year career and even after that to get some of these rules and get some of these procedures in place and hopefully that the players would adhere to. So I'm a little bit discouraged that Roger, by his own admission, has blown some of these situations of late, but I'm equally discouraged by the acts of some of the NFL ball players.
And I want to talk about both of those,
yes.
George. Let's take them one at a time. First of all, with your good friend Roger Goodell, do you feel like he has not been given enough of the benefit of the doubt? Because so many people don't believe that he didn't see the video or that he couldn't have seen the video before he said that he did. And that's where a lot of this criticism is coming from. Is he misunderstood in some way?
No, I don't think he's misunderstood. And I'd caution you about using that good friend Roger.
Okay, yes, sir.
But I think that any intelligent person knows that the National Football League wields a tremendous amount of authority, and they have a long reach to obtain things that for the rest of us are unattainable. So I think that for him to, first of all, to say that Ray Rice was ambiguous about the discussion that went on in the elevator, I think is a smokescreen entirely. And secondly, that they did not have access to the secondary video, I think is just it's a further smokescreen that I don't think a lot of the people are buying.
So let's talk about the second part, and that is the behavior of the players that are on these teams. So a few things have happened. Of course, the league has instituted much stricter penalties for the infraction of domestic abuse or any abuse in that regard. Also named 4 women to help advise them on policy. But here's my question to you, George. How can you really tell grown men what to do in their private lives?
Well, I think that's the difficulty that the National Football League is going to find themselves, that they can implement all of these policies, rules, and regulations that they want to, but I think that's being reactive to a situation. The horse is already out of the barn at that point in time. I think, and I will say this, that they have the greatest life skills programs that I've ever seen in my life, the National Football League and the NFL Players Association, but they only make it mandatory for rookies, and you'll see that these infractions are not caused by rookies. These are caused by veterans. So I think that they should make those programs required concurrently throughout the career of a ball player. I think that would help.
All right. There's so much more to talk about in that regard, but before I will let you go, I want to talk about your book, Just Around the Bend. You walked all the way across the country.
I did indeed. I walked from the George Washington Bridge all the way to San Diego, California, and it was because I was motivated because of the first responders and rescue and recovery workers of 9/11. I played 14 years with the Giants, Deb, and I've never put my life on the line. Those individuals put their lives on the line for safeguarding and protection of our freedoms. So I wrote this book in tribute to all of those first responders, both domestically and the ones that I met across the country. You can find this book on Amazon, or you can go to my website, which is georgedmartin.com, and you can get a copy because to me it's a reciprocation of what they did on our behalf.
Well, congratulations to you on the feat and on the book and on a marvelous career. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much, Debbie. It's my pleasure.
Nice to meet you. And you're watching Arise America.